scary movies take place in cemeteries, but what is it about them that makes them spooky?
Dead people.
That's probably it. Raffi Andonian is back to talk about national cemeteries, including a few located right here in Northwest Arkansas. That's all coming up. Well, nothing says spooky season like a cemetery. So up next, learn a little history behind a few national cemeteries, including a few here in Northwest Arkansas in the River Valley. We'll have that for you next right here on Good Day in WA.
Now, many scary movies take place at cemeteries, but what about them makes them so spooky? Celebrity historian Raffi Andonian is back to talk more about national cemeteries, including a couple you can see right here in Northwest Arkansas. Raffi, welcome back.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about national cemeteries. Of course, it's where we bury our dead. But, I mean, it's spooky season, and a lot of scary movies are happening in these national cemeteries.
No doubt.
Why do we get creeped out by them so much?
There's something about the dead, right, in another world coming in. It's just something, that is creepy. But particularly in national cemeteries, when I think about those, you think about, there's a last full measure of devotion, as Abraham Lincoln put it, that they gave for the country. And there is something that is somber about that, which you can kind of see as spooky when you're having, Halloween theme.
Yes, certainly.
Yes, absolutely.
Where was the first American National Cemetery?
You're not going to believe this.
Okay.
It's in Mexico City.
Really?
First
What?
U.S.
That's the.
It's not in the United
That's the wrong
States.
country.
I know, right? So in the Mexican-American War, between 1846 and 1848, so it's when the U.S. and Mexico were at war.
Okay.
What happened is, of course, a lot of battles took place in Mexico, and the dead were kind of haphazardly buried all over the place.
Oh.
And they were not buried with Mexican dead because there was a Protestant and Catholic divide that was kind of a big deal.
Okay.
What U.S. Congress did after the war is they stepped in. They said, we need to do something about that. And the first one they created was in Mexico City because there were a lot of dead in the vicinity there. By 1850-51, you have that first national cemetery in Mexico City. 750 Mexican or American soldiers from the Mexican-American War are buried there.
Man,
wow.
How much knowledge do you have in that noggin? Yeah, that is impressive. I love it. Yeah.
Here's another question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Why was the national cemetery system established?
Well, there's something called the Civil War, right? So it's always about war. First there was the Mexican-American War, now the Civil War, which is shortly after the Mexican-American War. It's between 1861 and 1865. Of course, North versus South, right? And in that event, there's almost 700,000 people that are killed, okay, as part of the war. Well, Congress decides, the president decides, we need to do something about this. Government efforts were sloppy at first, so private organizations started to pop up trying to pull this together. But ultimately, Congress stepped in by about maybe 2 years into the war.
Okay.
So within 1 year, when Congress stepped in, there were 12 national cemeteries. By the end of the war, you had 27. And then shortly after the war, 72.
Wow.
All in a period of a few years, it just was boom. Well, there's so many dead folks that are from the American Civil War.
Sure.
Now, of course, one more thing to add about that. Nobody, of course, captured that honor better than Abraham Lincoln at his Gettysburg Address. And that's why I carry this pen with me.
Oh.
This is made of witness tree wood. That is, the tree was there to witness the Gettysburg Address when Lincoln talked about the last full measure of devotion that these men gave in honor of a new birth of freedom, which is still applicable to wars today and, of course, for years since the Civil War. And this pen is made of that from my time at Gettysburg. That's what it symbolizes for me, and I carry it with me as a memento.
That is very cool.
That is very cool.
Yes.
And we did see some pictures that you sent us from some national cemeteries that you have visited. How many have you been to?
Oh, countless. But some of my favorites, of course, at Gettysburg, when I worked at Gettysburg, I've had them all over Virginia, in Arkansas, Southwest Missouri. I've been to many of them. Of course, here locally, you all have in Northwest Arkansas 2 national cemeteries that are all from that Civil War period, shortly after the Civil War. Now, of course, during the war, Arkansas was in the Confederacy, so the U.S. government couldn't do anything. But shortly after the war, they came and gathered some of those dead and established them. But one of them is here in Fayetteville, Fayetteville National Cemetery, gathered from some of the dead from the battles around here, like Pea Ridge, Prairie Grove. Some of those names sound familiar. Those are some of the battles that they came in from. Of course, a few years after. And another one that's really cool is Fort Smith National Cemetery here in Northwest Arkansas. Now, you know what's really neat about that? One of the folks that's buried there is General William Darby. There's a movie made, Darby's Rangers, in 1958 in honor of him. General William Darby was a real person. In World War II, he was killed. Here's what's really fascinating. He led Darby's Rangers. That was the basis for what later became the U.S. Army Rangers.
Okay.
Really?
And he's buried right here in Northwest Arkansas at Fort Smith National Cemetery.
I love that. So let's say our audience right now, obviously we're all riveted by all of this knowledge that you have. You've joined us a couple times now on the show. If we want to follow you on social media, keep up with anything you have going on, how do we do that?
CelebrityHistorian.com is a website you can check out, or on Instagram, you can go at @celebrity_historian. That's another place you can follow along what I'm doing. Those are a couple of really easy places to follow me and see what all I have going on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Raffi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Lots of knowledge. I love that.
I do too. I appreciate it. And it's seasonal as well. We're talking about cemeteries.
Spooky season, National Cemeteries.
Yeah. Dress the part. We got the pumpkins. Hope you're having a good time at home. Stay with us. We got more Good Day NWA coming up right after this.